everyone. This is Greg Drevenstedt, Editor-in-Chief at Rider Magazine, and your host for the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast. Our guest today is Rainer Buck. Rainer is the CEO of Edelweiss Bike Travel, a global motorcycle tour company based in Austria. Rainer, welcome to the show.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you, and I'm glad to be on your show.
Thank you. Well, since I'm based in California, you're in Austria. It's 10:30 in the morning here and 7:30 p.m. there, so it's we got 9 time zones between us.
Yeah, but we are used to that, because most of our clients come from the US and quite a few from California and the Pacific Coast. So,
absolutely. Well, I know Edelweiss has been around for a long time. Could you give us a little bit of backstory on Edelweiss, how it got started and what all it does?
Yeah, of course I can do. It all started in 1980 when Werner Wachter, founder of Edelweiss, decided to quit his job as a sales engineer and to start a company to combine his passion of riding motorcycles on one hand and travel the world, and of course to make a living out of it. And at the beginning it was only a two-man show. It was Werner and his wife Coral. Werner was the first Edelweiss tour guide, so to speak, and Coral was the first van driver. And over the years, he managed to develop the company and to become the world's leading motorcycle touring company.
Great. Well, I know you, like I said, since 1980, so I guess that'll be 41 years this year. So, you do tours all over the world, right? It's, you started it really in the Alps. You're based in Austria, but where all do you do tours?
Oh, that's an easy question. I mean, nearly everywhere on Earth. We operate around 80 different routes on all continents on a yearly basis. Of course, with a strong focus on Europe. Besides that, we do quite a few tailor-made tours each year, where clients can pick any location of their choice. In most cases, due to our vast experience over the last 40 years. We can make that dream come true. And so wherever you want to go, we try to have the right offer for you.
That's great. I know there's been a close relationship between Rider Magazine and Edelweiss really since the beginning. Our founding publisher, Dennis Rouse, went on a number of tours with Werner, and I think the first one was in 1983. And I've actually had the good fortune to go on 6 or 7 Edelweiss tours myself. I've been in the Alps a couple of times. I went, did a tour of Sicily, tour of Norway, tour of Canada. And in fact, my wife went with me as a passenger on most of these tours. And at the top of Stelvio Pass, we got engaged.
Oh, not too bad, huh?
Yeah.
It's a good place to do so.
Yeah, after what is it, 48 hairpins to get to the top, I really was hoping she would say yes, and got down on one knee and gave her the ring, and I gave a camera to a young fellow to take a photo, and it ended up being in the story in the magazine. So it was great.
That's cool. That's good to hear.
So now I realize that, because you're a tour company, that the past year has been challenging for everyone in a lot of ways in terms of how people's lives have been affected by the pandemic. So can you just give us a little bit of breakdown on what Edelweiss has done to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, of course, I can do. I mean, as normally every tour operator has its own problems at the moment, of course, because international travel is down. So do we too. I mean, it's a tough year. We survived quite good, I would say. But nonetheless, of course, we know that it's also tough for the clients and for the guests, because they have many concerns. And in one particular way, they have concerns if they should place a deposit for maybe a tour later this year or next year. And on the other hand, if then international travel is allowed again, they have questions like how does the tour operator adapt to the situation of the pandemic, and what does the tour operator do to make it as safe as possible? So 2 different questions on the more, let's say, the fear of traveling. Of course, we adapted. We have some or we developed some Edelweiss COVID guidelines, as normally every tour operator or hotel or restaurant does, of course, to make sure that the guest is as safe as possible, but also the tour guides, and especially how the tour guides have to act when they are on tour. I mean, you and I, we both know that maybe the danger of being on a motorcycle ride is not as high as on maybe a bus tour or on a vacation on a cruise ship, where you normally are within 2,500 people, and maybe when there's a COVID infection, then maybe you are locked down on the cruise ship. So I think it's a very safe way of travel if you go on a motorcycle ride, because you're in fresh air, and especially when you stop and you are at the restaurant, you are at the hotels. At least I can say that from the European hotels, they really have adapted, and they made plans how to host their guests in a safe way. So you have only places where 4 people sit at one table, and the distance is more than 2 meters, those kind of things. I mean, and we do the same, that we adapted on how to handle the luggage of the guests and disinfect the vans and all those kind of things. So on this side, you can be really sure that it's as soon as travel is allowed again, that with Edelweiss Bike Travel, you have a tour operator which really is concerned about this issue, but is also handling it with a great quality, and with a good experience of 40 years. On the other hand, of course, shall I book now, and how safe is my deposit? I mean, that's maybe also a big question for people, because of course they want to plan in advance, but to make sure that their money is also safe. And here I also can say, I mean, we are a high quality tour operator, 40 years of experience. All the deposits which are placed with Edelweiss have to be secured by a bank guarantee. That's the law in Austria. So this is also pretty safe, and a safe way. And I highly can recommend that people who want to travel and who are thinking that as soon as possible as the travel starts again, that they shall really look now at the open spots, because the tours fill up pretty well in I would say from June up to the end of the year, because a lot of people are eager. I mean, they stay home for now maybe a year, and they are really eager to go on a vacation. And I'm sure that we see in the second half, especially in Europe, a high demand in hotel rooms, not only for the motorcycle trips, but everyone wants to go, let's say, to Tuscany or to Norway or to Spain, and also to the Alps, of course. And so it's best to make a deposit now and to make a reservation. And I just can say that if you choose Edelweiss, then yeah, your money is safe, and also I think the travel is really safe. And if in case, you never know that we have to delay or that you have to cancel because of the pandemic, of course we pay back the money, or you just do rebook for next year, whatever. I mean, that's an easy way for us to handle it. I mean, we did it now since 1 year, but we are also we are very eager to host some guests this year, hopefully. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I know that I've having been on a number of Edelweiss tours, that many times the participants on the tour have been on multiple tours in the past, and so repeat business is an important part of your business, as it is for any hotel or restaurant. So having safe precautions, having flexible rebooking policies and so forth, because you want to have a good relationship with your customers so they'll come back on future tours. So I certainly understand that and appreciate where you're coming from. And also, I mean, I'm in the same boat as so we'll talk a little bit about the Greece tour this October, but I travel internationally a lot for the magazine, and I haven't been on an airplane in over a year. It's quite unusual. It's been a relief in some ways. I haven't been in airports, but I'm also, I think, not only myself, but many others, as you're talking about, because the vaccines are rolling out in many different countries. I think probably by this summer, there's going to be a lot of pent up demand to go out and travel
Yeah.
and return to normal life starting this probably as early as this summer, and that's going to be great to hopefully, for businesses like travel companies, tour companies such as yours, and hotels and restaurants, because I know just in our local area we've had a lot of hotels and restaurants that have really struggled, and so they need the business, they need
Sure.
whatever kind of
Of
business
course.
they can get. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when if you have a small business and you are in lockdown, and I know it here. I mean, we are sitting in the middle of the Alps, and we have a lockdown through the whole winter season. So, and
Yeah,
that's the main season for the ski areas and so on.
sure.
It's a really a hard time for them. And I mean, I have also some friends with hotels and restaurants. So, if you talk to them, then, I mean, they have really tough times. And I hope that they see some business coming back. The sooner the better for them, I have to say. Yeah.
Right. Well, I know that Edelweiss does tours around the world, and again, we'll talk about the Greece tour in a little bit. But for Americans, going to Europe and riding in the Alps probably has to be the top item on a motorcyclist bucket list, because there's really nothing quite like it. We have mountains in the United States; some of them are quite nice, but there's something really special about the Alps, particularly places like the Dolomites. You talk about the ski areas, some of the chalets and hotels. It's like, it looks like a picture, postcard or something like that. So, but also when people go to the Alps, if you're from an area that doesn't have a lot of mountain roads, it can be quite overwhelming with all of the tour buses and the hairpin turns and so forth. So, how do you help your customers adapt to riding in a place like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we have a lot of experience with that because we started, of course, with the first tours in the Alps, and at the beginning, the major airport we used was Munich, and so the people flew into Munich, and then if you know the area. When you start out south from Munich, then the mountains are coming closer and closer, and they get higher and higher, and then people are overwhelmed, and then they stop and they ask the tour guide, "I shall go over those mountains. Are we right? This is the right way to the next hotel." Those kind of things. So if you are not used to alpine riding, of course, it can be really challenging. We fully understand, and we adapted in two different ways. One is for, let's say, the really less experienced mountain rider, alpine rider, those who maybe don't find so many sweepers and hairpins in their home country. We have a 1 day prep course, I would say, which you can do up front of our Alps tours. And nowadays, this is for all the tours which start in Austria, in Seefeld, which is very close to Munich, about 2 hours. And here you just arrive a day early, and you get familiar with the bike. You get a little bit of theoretical input, why you should do the turns in a certain style, so to be sure that you are safe. And then also, because that's for us, that's the most important point, that you go for let's say, an afternoon ride before the tour starts with the motorcycle you have chosen, because very important to be familiar with the bike you have chosen, and maybe even if there's a passenger with you, that you go on some of the smaller alpine roads which are around the hotel, and to get also familiar with how to look into the curve. We have a special way of riding on main roads and on secondary roads, and we call the line we're using the Edelweiss line. It's not the fastest one. It's also not very slow, but it's a safe line so that you get out of trouble. The big thing is that we want to make sure that the people, they can enjoy their holiday, because they are on a holiday. They are not on a race. If they want to race, they go on a racetrack and do a race training. But here, as you said, I mean, the Alps are on the bucket list of every motorcycle rider. They should really be able to enjoy the scenery, and therefore you have to make sure that the line you are doing on the road gives you enough, safety margin, so that even if the oncoming traffic is making mistakes, that you are still safe. So this is the 1-day prep course for, let's say, people who are not so experienced. And then on the second day, which is then the standard arrival day of the tour start, they feel much more comfortable to do the tour. And if you feel comfortable, it's also something which has to do something with safety. You feel more safe, and you are more relaxed, and you don't lock up the brakes and those kind of things.
Right, right.
And on the other hand, for, let's say, people who are really eager to learn about mountain riding and about doing switchbacks and those kind of things, we have a so-called riding academy. It's like a tour. It's a 6-night vacation, 5-day tour. And on the first day, you do a half-day really theoretical training where you really learn about the riding techniques. And if you do this, what happens then on the motorcycle, and what happens on the tarmac. Then for a half day, you go on a safety course. I don't know if you have similar things at the automobile club, like the AAA, where you are in a closed environment, and you can really do some leaning on the bike and some tight turns and some braking, those kind of things. And then on the second and on the third day, we go pass riding. We have chosen a different kind of passes, like the more open ones with the wider sweepers, like the main roads, but with hairpins. And then also the most challenging ones would be the nearly one-laners with hairpins. And you go up and down this mountain pass behind the tour guide. It's a maximum of 6 riders per instructor. And you do this pass multiple times, so that you really are then afterwards confident how to do a certain kind of curve. And on the 4th and 5th day, because it's a tour and because that's what we want to teach the people, if they use the technique we teach them at home, we do a ride out. So we go with the academies, as an example, in the Dolomites. We go down to Lake Garda. It's around 150 miles trip one way going down. And then you can really practice what you learned the last 3 days. And the participants behind the tour guides will always be changing, so that after maybe 20 minutes, you are behind the tour guide and you can look at the tour guide, how he handles the bike. And on the last day, we go back to the base hotel. So overall, over the 5 days, you get a good overview and a really good view into how we do or how we think safe travel should be in the Alps. And it's funny that we've seen customers coming every year to the same training, because it's just also a good start for the riding season, that you get a refreshment. So that's how we try to adapt to that. But of course, our tour guides are also very experienced, that they can handle, let's say, people who are new to alpine riding on a standard trip. I mean,
sure.
The most important thing is that you have to judge yourself how experienced I am, and then that you choose the right tour and the right bike. I mean, it would maybe not make sense if you choose, let's say, to go with a passenger on a RT on the Alps Extreme tour with no experience in alpine riding. But you can do a standard, let's say, Alps and Lakes also on an RT. Yeah.
Right.
If you're a little bit experienced, then maybe you choose a F850 or a F900 or a lighter bike and a solo rider and go on a high alpine tour, as an example. So we have 17 different alpine trips in our regular program. So normally everyone should find the right tour for himself.
Sure. Well, as I said, since I've been on quite a few Edelweiss tours, I know that even if somebody doesn't sign up for the riding clinic the day before or this training academy, is that there's a briefing the day before the riding starts where everybody sits down and the tour guides give an overview of sort of the policies on how to ride safely. That I know that, for example, one of the policies is to not pass other riders. That this is not a race. You don't really
Yeah,
want on your
very
tours
important.
people
Yeah,
to get in a competitive mindset, ride over
yeah,
their head. You really want them to enjoy themselves. So even if they don't get that training, there's always, I've been through this briefing multiple times, and it's very thorough. It gives people an understanding of even different highway signs and so forth that are quite different than we have in the United States.
yeah.
And it really helps equip you for what's going on. There's usually every day starts with a ride briefing, so you kind of know what to expect on the day ahead, and any particular issues that there may be, certain areas where if it might be wet, or if there's going to be certain hazards in some certain areas, that you get an understanding of that. That way, like you said, you can go into it and be confident and enjoy yourself, and not have too many surprises, at least in terms of riding conditions.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
I mean, that's very important. We do the standard briefing at the beginning of the trip, and then, of course, in the morning every day is a short briefing about the day's route.
right.
And every day, I mean, you can go on the same trip 4 or 5 times, and you have different situations because the weather is unpredictable, traffic is unpredictable, and so we try to make sure that everybody is fully aware what he or she has to expect on the day of riding. And I think this is a good solution what we did, and we established that since 40 years, and it works.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I mean, it really works.
Well, it's the last Edelweiss tour I went on was in November of 2019. I went to Morocco. We started
Yeah,
off in Spain and then took the ferry over from Gibraltar to Morocco, and fabulous trip. But it was one of those things where there was, on some of the roads, we had camels crossing the road, we had goats and sheep crossing the road, had some pretty adventurous drivers out there and taxis and so forth, but absolutely beautiful place to ride, and to be able to go
it
to the
is. Yeah.
desert. Yeah. So I opted for the optional night where you can stay out at the Erg Chebi Dunes, where you can stay out in
Oh,
the overnight
a
camp.
night under the stars, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It was really special. That was great. So, um, I know that I mentioned that there's going to be this. We've teamed up for this Greece tour. There's a best of Greece tour that Edelweiss does, and the tour will be in October for this particular one. We'll include a link to the special booking page in the show notes. But tell us a little bit about Greece. I've never been, always wanted to go. What's it like riding in Greece?
Yeah, what can you expect of Greece? I mean, I would say no less than the best ride there is. I mean, um, I was lucky enough to ride Greece last year, despite of the pandemic. That was it was a blast, and you have to imagine like Greece as a huge mountain range. It's just a huge mountain thrown into the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, that's what Greece is, and so it's full of the most spectacular, some of the most spectacular and winding roads in Europe. Most of the people, of course, think of a lot of islands and laying at the beach and drinking something and mass tourism and yeah, do swimming and those kind of things. But it's riding in Greece is so fantastic because the landscape is so breathtaking because it alternates between bare mountains, really high mountains. They have ski resorts there. Most of the people don't know. They have forested hills and beautiful coastlines. And whenever you have coast, and behind the coast the mountains go up, exactly it's a lot of winding roads along the coast too. And this is one of my favorites. Going along a winding coastline with no traffic at all. I mean, it's hardly you will see hardly any cars on the roads we travel on because it's all secondary roads, and most of the people live in Thessaloniki or in Athens, of course, but we go right through mainland and through the Peloponnese, and so the riding is extraordinary good, I would say, and besides that, it's also, I mean, a real Greek experience because you come really into the small villages. You learn the culture away from the mass tourism. you, of course, you will also visit some of the major highlights and the attractions. You have to go to Delphi or to Olympia as an example, but these famous ancient cities. But besides that, the hospitality, the Greek food, everything is so good, and even the wine, the red wine, I tell you, is very good. Meanwhile, wasn't maybe when I'm looking back, my first trip to Greece was maybe 40 years ago. Then you only had Retsina, but now they have really very, very good wine, and you can have a real good time there. And it's all in all really a once in a lifetime experience, and it has to be on your bucket list. I mean, that's for sure, because it's not the first thing you think about when riding in Europe. But when you go back, I think it will be on the top 3 of your list.
Oh, that's great.
Maybe not even number 1, but that's easy for me because, you know, the Alps are on my back door. So the Alps is very special and it's very, very good. But if you have it every day, I mean, Stelvio is about around 1.5 hours from my hometown. So, but Greek is something very special. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, I've went on an Edelweiss tour in Sicily. I've ridden in the Balkans and that whole Mediterranean area, partly because of the mountains and the sea. Also, the Mediterranean climate is very nice. I mean, I live in California, which has what's described as a Mediterranean climate. It's very mild and it's typically fairly dry. So, and October should probably be a perfect time. As I said, there's I know you offer the Best of Greece tour several times, and we have a special booking page that'll be on this episode, on the show notes. So one of the things about an Edelweiss tour is because of the size of your organization, you offer your customers a wide variety of motorcycles they can choose from. I know that you keep a pretty large fleet there based at your headquarters in Austria, and that you said you can ship motorcycles throughout Europe. But let's give people a sense of what sort of motorcycles they could maybe rent, because this is sometimes an opportunity people to try a different motorcycle than they have at home.
Yeah, of course, that's one reason why people also choose Edelweiss, that we have our own fleet of motorcycles. It's very important for us. The fleet, which is based in the Alps, is around 180 to 200 motorcycles strong. And from here, we ship them to every place where we do tours in Europe or Northern Africa. And this is because it's our own fleet, it gives us the flexibility to adapt to the customer needs. So if you book up front, this is also why I also always say, you know, make an early booking, because then we can guarantee you your choice of motorcycle. Like now in Greece, and for October as an example, if people want to have a specific type of motorcycle, we make a reservation, and then this will be on the transport going to Greece. Most of the bikes are from, I would say, the majority will be BMW, Ducati, and Triumph. We also have quite a bit of Harley Davidson in our fleet, and of course also from some of the Japanese brands, more the smaller ones, or the enduro bikes like Epica Twin, or we have the new Tenere 700 as an example. We try always to have the newest equipment in our fleet so that people can try the bikes. If you talk about which is maybe the most important bikes in our fleet, then of course it's like the GS series of BMW, or the Multistradas, or the Triumph Tigers, or the Explorers, because they are, I would say, they are the best bikes to handle every terrain where we are riding. And also you can go on gravel. We have some adventure tours too. But if you look at, as an example, to the BMW range, I mean, we offer from the 310 all the way up to the K1600. We have all the bikes in our fleet. Also 1000 XR as an example. And from Ducati, it's the Multistradas and the Monsters as an example. From Triumph, we stay to the Tigers and the Explorers, so we don't have the vintage style bikes. For us, it's very important that let's say the range of the motorcycle. So the mileage they can do is very important, so that it fits together. And on the Harley side, we normally don't mix on an Alpine tour. We don't mix the Harleys with the other bikes, but maybe now, the new Pan America has arrived finally,
Yes.
and so we will have this bike in our fleet. I'm sure next year too. Then we can mix because it's a similar riding style. No, I don't want to say that you can't ride Harley Davidson in the Alps. It's not true, because it's very fun to ride a Harley in the Alps, but it's a different riding style, and we want to give every customer the same, let's say, experience, and so that they have a lot of fun and get the most out of their vacation, because for most of them it's a vacation of a lifetime. Yeah? But if you look at our fleet, yes, I mean, I haven't counted, but I think 25 different models.
Wow.
I'm sure that we have.
Well, I know one of the things about going on an organized tour is one is basically, everything's taken care of. You've got your travel arrangements. You fly to the country or the city where the tour is going to start. You've got the hotels chosen. You've got the places to eat and so forth. And it takes kind of all of those worries away. But also, I know from having gone on a number of tours, you've got very experienced tour guides. They're very friendly. They're very accommodating. They can be like fixers. As I said, I went to Morocco, and Angela was the tour guide, the head tour guide there, and she spoke some Arabic and she spoke some French. And, if we were negotiating in a marketplace or something, if you get a little bit intimidated, she was there to help out. And so, but also, you end up on these tours with people from all over the world. As I said, I know you have a lot of American customers. I've made friends with people from Australia, from other countries that we stay in touch via Facebook and so forth. So to me, that's kind of the part of going on one of these tours. It's not just the sights and the roads, but it's the people, it's the experiences, like you say, the food. I love Greek food. Can't wait to try that out. So yeah, it's the overall experience, and no one place is better than the other. They all are different, and it's nice to get a different experience than riding just where you are back home.
Yeah, that's totally right. It's one of our aims, that we bring people together. I mean, I'm really happy if I look up in our booking system and I see a tour where maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 different nations are on the trip, because I know exactly that they will understand each other, even maybe if they don't speak the same language. But
Sure.
You have one thing in common, that's motorcycle riding, and you experience that every time you go on a trip. I mean, you go there, and the people are, in a certain way, like friends from the beginning, because you talk the same language. You are there for the same thing. You want to see the best landscapes. You want to have some fun on the road, and it's a dream to be on two wheels, and it's like a check on the bucket list, and then you have some, of course, some common topics, like the first thing what normally people ask is what kind of bike you are riding at home, and where have you been last. And so it's a no-brainer to be on a guided motorcycle tour, and that's what makes this kind of tour very special. If you compare it like to a bus trip, it's hard, because of course you have a certain destination where you want to go to, but what else do you have in common with the other guests? So this is not the question on a motorcycle trip. I mean, that's an easy one, and I'm sure at the first coffee stop everybody's talking to each other, and that's very good to see. And we know from our experience that people really made friends from different continents and countries, and they also ride together without Edelweiss. So now they are friends, and then they visit each other and go there for 2 weeks, maybe a US trip. Some German guys go over there and visit their friends and stay at their homes. And the guy in the US shows the German guy the best places, I don't know, in Minnesota. Sure. Or somewhere else. I mean, and that's a good thing. I mean,
Well,
that's what we want to achieve.
Well, on the Alps tour that I went on, my wife Carrie and I met a couple from Australia that were about our age. We sat with them at dinner a few nights and really got along with them quite well. And then a couple of years later, we booked to go on to a touring center in Norway, and they happened to be on the same tour. And so we got to spend time with them again. And of course, that we've both got open invitations. Unfortunately, they live in Australia in Perth, and they said anytime you want to come, you come stay with us. You can borrow a motorcycle, and we had the same invitation for them, and yeah, that's part of the experience. So I want to ask you about one thing before we go. Is that one of the things I've always enjoyed about every Alps Edelweiss tour I've been on is the picnic. So how did that get started? That's some feature of almost every tour you do. Is that right?
Feature on normally nearly every tour. We have a tour category called classic tours. So this is where it all started from. So and on those trips you will find the picnics, and I mean that was an idea of Werner. I cannot tell you when it started, because when I joined the company now 17 years ago, picnics have been there, always have been a main issue. From some tour guides, they were really loved. Some of them, they hated them. But I don't know even one single guest who did not enjoy an Edelweiss picnic. And I think the main idea was that because you are on a motorcycle tour, and because you go with a motorcycle on roads which are less traveled, sometimes you come in areas where it's very special, high up in the Alps or in some valleys, and then there is maybe no restaurant, but the valley is so beautiful, and then like you experience maybe in Morocco with the night under the stars, something similar, that you have a special occasion where you said, okay, and Werner was crazy enough to create that. Says, I have to show the people this place, and we have to stay there maybe for an hour, and maybe go to swim in I don't know, in the river flowing by, and then he created a vehicle or a trailer at the beginning where we did also some cooking. Yeah, so hot food at the beginning we had. That was tough because the trailers we are not allowed to tow the trailers now up Stelvio, so we have to change to a buffet style cold dishes, but that's also fine. Most important is that you find those special places somewhere high up a pass, like on a French Alpine pass, as an example. And no mountain hut around, no restaurant, no hotel, only motorcyclists pass by. And very often they stop and talk to the people because we are sitting there and we have some food, and then we sit together, we share some food and some drinks. And that's the idea. It's also the idea of getting the people together to share the same experience and to experience something very special. I mean, if you eat a sandwich at home, it's nothing special. But if you eat a sandwich somewhere in the Dolomites where normally people don't go there and don't find food, then it's something special. And I think that's the idea behind that. And it started, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago.
They're great. I've been on several picnics on the tours I've been on, and like I said, it's always a great location and good food, and it's a good experience. Well, Werner, Rainer, I know it's getting late where you are. I appreciate your time. You've been very generous telling us about Edelweiss. I'm looking forward to, like I said, going to this on this Greece tour in the fall, and we'll have more information about Edelweiss. One of the things I recommend people do is get on the Edelweiss mailing list, get the catalog sent to your house. It's something like it's a catalog of bucket list destinations every time it comes in the mail.
Yeah,
and it's something
really true. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we'll have all the links in the show notes. Thanks again, Rainer. For the Rider Magazine Insider Podcast, I'm Greg Trevenstead. Thanks for listening, and keep the rubber side down.